Hey folks, it's Brian here, the land guy. We're actually doing our next land project, but it's on a very familiar piece of property. Now let me turn the camera around and see if you recognize where we are at. Yes, we are back down here at the property along the creek, working on extending the clearing of this jungle mess from here all the way down through there to those evergreens on this property. Now the landowner was super happy and excited that we were able to come in here and thin a lot of this jungle out. And remember, it had all those vines that we were able to pull from the tree tops, get all of this looking good. That way he can get some wildflower seeds planted in there, and that's exactly what he's wanting to do on down through here. Now we did a little bit of this the other day, but we're going to go from here all the way down there. But you can tell all of this has been encroaching his property over the last several years, and we're wanting to get all of this cleaned back up to the county road. Going to leave the big nice trees, going to thin out some of the smaller trees, pull all the vines that we can, and we're going to be making piles right out here along this stretch. He's not going to be picking up any of these piles with his grapple system this time around, due to the fact that these piles are probably going to be pretty big, and there was no need in trying to get those things moved. The reason he moved those up there is because it was next to his building and his structures. But through here, we're going to be able to just make different piles on down through there. That way he can get them burnt at a later time. So if you hang tight, we're going to get started here in just a little bit. We've got a Caterpillar 306 that's getting ready to be dropped off here in just a little bit. Now, last week we had a 303.5. It did fine, but it had its limitations. So we've got a little bit bigger of a machine for this stretch right down through there. And I think it's going to do a little bit of a better job than what that 303.5 did. I got the 306 here on site, and I'm pretty impressed with it so far. We've been able to work on some of this, kind of staging everything right here for now before I start making some piles on down through there. I've already been able to pull several vines down already, like this tree here that's coming up and going out that way. I'll be taking that thing down as well as several of these other. There's actually some dead trees that has fallen over in the past years. I'll be pulling all those out, leaving these big, nicer trees, very similar to like what I've done here. I'm gonna put this on time lapse here for a little while. You folks can enjoy the progress. So the reason I chose a excavator for this project, there is a few of the challenges that this project calls for, and that is retrieving or pulling out and separating all this fencing, which is you've got the post, and then I believe there's a 5-strand wire. It may be 4-strand that's buried in here. So I'm going to grab a hold of some of this stuff, and I'm going to get it pulled up and separate it from the piles. I'll just kind of drop it right there for now. The other thing this excavator is really handy for is pulling vines. I don't know how many vines that we've had up through there that I've been able to grab a hold of and pinch and pull out. Some of you in my last video was stating, well, why don't you use a forestry mulcher? And some of the reasons why is because of the fencing that's buried in here. And then the landowner wanted me to pull as many vines out from the treetops. It's kind of hard to do that with a mulcher. Another great thing about an excavator is you've got branches that's pretty low, and I can go up here and I can reach and get those pulled down. It's like what we did. That one was a dead one, so we'll put it over here in this pile. And I've got a dead tree in there that I need to get in there and pull out. Love this view here from this glass on top. You can see right above you. That's super important. So the challenges for this project is getting the wire pulled out, pulling all the vines down, and trying to get the soil raked up really good. That way he can get his seed planted in there. If you run a forestry mulcher, it just pretty much turns everything to wood chips, and it's very hard to get any kind of seed to take, just from previous experience and then also talking with others. So I've got a big vine here. I'm going to grab a hold of that dude and pull it out. There she is. Boy, I do like the cab in this 306. This is nice. A lot more leg room, a lot more room in general. All right, we got that dude dug out. Here we go. And with an excavator, you can get all that dirt off the roots in the bottom of that stump. That way you'll have a lot cleaner burn pile. I'm sure the landowner will appreciate that when he gets this thing burnt. I don't know how much you guys can see from that angle. I think you might be able to see. Guess I should have paid attention to that. Layer down and do it. All right, so I brought out the big guns. Yes, that chainsaw. And I know you're probably wondering, well, Brian, where's the engine at? Well, this is one of the super awesome tools that I carry around with me. I don't have to fight with trying to put gas in one and making sure it'll start. All I've got to do is push a button on this thing and she's ready to roll. It does take oil, but that's about it. This is a Husqvarna Power Axe 350i, and I've had this thing for probably 3 to 4 months, and I have been thoroughly impressed with this thing. In fact, I'll leave a link in the description video about that, and you can get that thing purchased. I got it with 2 batteries, and these batteries last about 30 minutes of full sawing. It's amazing. I very seldom have to put that second battery in. You just charge that battery up, but that's an 18-inch bar on that thing, and it works out really, really well. So if you're interested in getting one of those things purchased, make sure you look at the link there in the description, and I've provided that where you can get that dude purchased. All right, well, let's go ahead and get this thing fired up and get rolling. I'll show you how easy it is. Just push this button right here. Light green's up. She's ready to go. And then when you're done, you just hit the button. But if you want to look at the battery level, you can push this. And I've got 3 bars. Now there was 3 bars there yesterday. I used it a little bit. But yeah, this thing is really, really sweet. And if you're like me and you don't need a chainsaw a whole lot, and you don't want to have to fight with trying to get one started, messing with the carbs or spark plugs or anything like that, having a battery operated saw, super awesome. I settled on Husqvarna because of all the great reviews. And if you need to tighten the chain up, you just take this thing here and you loosen it up, tighten it up, and you're good to go. Easy to change the chains on it. But I'm gonna lay this over here out of the way, get this thing picked up. Another one of those nasty vines here. It's a big one too. Old Tarzan, he'd probably swing from that one. Not the land guy. Alright, so that dude is tied in all the way up there to those other trees. See the trees moving? Alright, we're going to try to pull down on this dude. See if we can get that. I got it. certainly don't want to be underneath the thing when you're pulling on those vines in case it breaks some of those limbs up there and all of a sudden they fall on top of you. Kind of reminds me of an old boy that I was working with. He came in after a weekend of doing some work on his land with a front end loader, very similar to what the landowner has here. He said he had a grapple system just like that tractor up there, and he was doing some clearing in his woods, and he said as he was pushing those piles, evidently there was a vine that was hooked to the end of his grapple. He didn't think anything of it, so as he was still pushing those piles, that vine was going back this way. Well, it was still tied to a tree behind him, and it was kind of a dead tree. And he said all of a sudden, as he was pushing, that vine pulled that dead tree over. He said that tree was about like that and came down and slapped the rear end of his tractor. And if that tree would have fell over another 2 to 3 foot, it would have came down on top of his head and probably killed him. So that's why you've got to be very careful with these vines, because they are just an accident waiting to happen. You need to get back to where you can see what you're doing. But this coworker that I was working with, he didn't think anything of it. He thought, I'll just keep going that way, and that vine will surely come loose. Well, it was attached to that dead tree. And like I said, that pulled that tree, uprooted that tree, and it fell down right beside his tractor. He was that close to getting killed. All right, well, you guys are in for a treat. I'm gonna do a little bit more saw action, cut this thing in half. That way it'll be a lot easier to pile and keep it compacted. Let me go get my chainsaw. There we go. What would really be super awesome is to have some kind of a basket or a chainsaw holder mounted on an excavator. So one of the differences that I've noticed too with this 306 and the 303.5 is this has a little bit more tail swing, and it has more weight on the back side. You can lift up some bigger stuff. You can dig up some of these trees and not get your rear end up in the air. It's not a zero tail swing, so it's probably sticking out a good, probably 1.5 feet. One thing about when I was using that smaller excavator up there around that shop is we kept a lot more trees up there, and it was a more confined, tight space. In fact, some of that I was carrying brush between 2 trees, and then I was also working up there amongst trees. And with that smaller excavator, I can turn around within the tracks and not have to worry about the rear end of it hitting a tree or anything. So that's a super handy thing about those small excavators. You can work in a pretty tight, confined space. But this down here, I knew this was going to be a lot more material to be able to excavate and to get it cleaned up. And I wasn't going to have more of a tight, confined area. So the 306 has worked out really awesome. But the landowner, he's got that little Kubota tractor, and he's going to be kind of cleaning some of this up too with that grapple system. And then he's got his bucket too. He's going to be trying to get some of this fixed up in here. But his main thing was, he said, Brian, I need help getting this jungle mess completely gone. He said, there's too much for me to have to do with a chainsaw. And that's what we've been able to get accomplished with these little excavators, getting that all cleaned up. This is getting a lot more woolier the further we go this direction. You can see the thickness of it. It is a lot wider. So it's taking a little bit more time, and I'm making the piles a little bit closer together than what we did when we started up there. I think it's update time. What do you think? Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've done so far. We've made it down to here. The property line is those evergreens right there. Been able to get that section down here to the gate, complete it. And then we started this next section here, getting this all cleaned out, getting it piled up here. Boy, what a beautiful day today. I think I about got this thing finished up here for these folks. If I was going to buy anything, excavator wise, the 306 would be a perfect size. I was able to handle some pretty good sized trees, get some of them also pushed out and pushed over. And I didn't have no issues at all with that 306. It's a really, really handy little machine. But what we've been able to do is get all that fence pulled out, and I got all that wire moved up there. We was able to pull all the vines that we can, reaching from these trees. And every one of these piles here, I believe there's, I think there's 9 piles all together down through here that the landowner is going to end up burning. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I just want to let you know, I love doing these land renovation projects. This thing was a jungle of a mess, and it is so much better than what it was. I appreciate you all watching, commenting, and giving us thumbs up. The channel has really grown. We just crossed over the 2,000 sub mark. So that makes me very excited about what the future holds with this channel. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, share the video, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and we'll catch you in the next land video.
Need it flat. The land guy's got your back. Dirt roads, ponds, done with pride. Call him up, he's on your side. The land